very much. Again, it's me, but this is a completely different conversation. Um, because of the Sunday Magazine and the Literary Review, I come across so many books and writers and authors, publishers, and all kinds of questions about the publishing world. So Kanishka and I had a conversation some time ago about this, and we said, we need to, there's just so many voices, podcasts and self-published books, and so many people who want to write. Shouldn't we talk about what it means to write today? I mean, is there even room for writing? Is there money in it? I mean, those old Bollywood tropes of, I'm going to write and I'm famous. Does it apply at all? Do you make enough money? And today I have with me three powerhouses. They all look very quiet, but they are behind a lot of careers. Manasi, of course, who's a Chennai person, Stella Maris, literature. Yeah, behind all those books, the ones you've got, got people to sign today, Kiran Desai, Arundhati Roy, Salman Rushdie, everything. That's Manasi. And Manasi till December was with Penguin, and now she is free to speak and talk about all things books and business, the business of books. Kanishka, of course, is a hot shot literary agent, possibly Asia's biggest, because he's also got these big names. The Booker winners, whereas Banu Mushtaq or, Desi and Gitanjali, all of them on his roster. And Elizabeth, who used to be at The Hindu for a short while, but is doing an amazing job at Simon Schuster and can also tell you very, very interesting things that's happening behind the scenes. So first question, let's just get it out of the way. AI, which worries everybody, because we get that as well with our, people writing. A lot of it is AI generated, and then you wonder with UN Books, is it the end of books, so to speak, or do you see a lot of hope? And if so, where? Manasi, let's begin with you.
So the first question is a tough one, and you've given it to me. Okay, so I think AI is very interesting because AI is almost entirely trained on human material. So actually, it is entirely trained on human material, which means AI is really only as good as the writers it is trained on. I don't think there is, just logically to me, it doesn't seem to me that it is ever going to be possible for AI to be better than the material that it is trained on. That is the baseline. So for me, it's almost interesting to watch how writers will now respond to this material that is being produced by AI and see whether they can now do something a little bit different. And then, of course, AI will be trained on that material, and it's an endless cycle. But it's a challenge for writers to get better and better and better. I'm not, at the moment, I can say confidently, I'm not very threatened by what AI will do to the publishing industry. Also because I work in very, very literary publishing, and I don't think literary publishing can ever be replaced by something that is not brought about through lived experience.
I can only speak from the perspective of an agent, and I haven't received too many submissions in any genre which seem AI generated, nor have I inadvertently signed up any submission that has used AI, nor have I been told by publishers that the author you signed up or the proposal you sent our way has used AI. So like Manasi said, it depends on the genre you're working in, and I work with primarily literary writers, but what some literary writers and even other writers writing in other genres are doing is they're using AI, for helping them fine-tune their pitches. Maybe, like some basic fact-checking, some light copy editing, proofreading, but I don't think AI can be used to write a book. It defeats the purpose of writing, especially writing literary fiction. That's what I feel. So I don't feel any impact of AI on
Not even acquisitions?
No, so from my perspective, no. Some authors are now insisting that they would like a clause in the contract with the publisher that the publisher should not use AI to generate covers, and nor should they be using their material to train AI. So and mostly these authors write in the science fiction fantasy space. I'm not surprised. But other than that, I have not seen.
Penguin has now started putting it on the copyright page of all books as of last year that says this material is not allowed to be used to train AI.
And
like Manasi, I'm actually looking forward to see how things will change with the AI. I don't think it is at a stage where it is replacing things, replacing actual writers doing the writing job, So, but it is a fast evolving machine, and it is already being used in various ways. It's being used for translation, for audio narration, though I was having a chat with someone who is using the tool as a business for translations, and he agrees that it can just do the job a little faster, but it cannot replace the human being. The translation needs to be read by an actual human being who's an expert in the language, to get the nuances right, etc. So it's going to be a real part of the publishing industry very soon. In terms of, I think really good writers will continue to do very good writing, but on their own. But those very quick books, maybe quick romances, things like that, So I wonder if those are going to be purely AI written soon, So because you just don't want to give that pulpy read, and you probably don't need that human being to do it, So it might be more cost effective and speedier for some publishing houses, the ones who are publishing them, to do that.
I think we have to make a distinction between translation of content and literary translation. So yes, AI has very badly impacted people who provide translation services because they are now being asked to edit and oftentimes like rewrite translations generated by AI, but I haven't seen much of an impact on literary translations.
So there's a distinction there, yes.
But like even literary writers, they want to experiment with it, but I don't think they're using it. Even translators, they...
Having said all of that, I would like to say that there are a lot of incredibly boring things that publishers have to do, and I would love for AI to take those jobs away, like metadata, like search engine optimization information, writing keyword, like 150 keywords for every book. You take a blurb, and then it has to be 150 pages for Amazon and 130 words for something else, and like unbelievably boring things that we have to do. Yeah. I would love for AI to take those jobs away.
What about pitches? I mean, because you had mentioned to me that, when you're pitching all of that, make sure you've got it right. Don't do a quick, hasty job. Your manuscripts, when you're submitting it, make sure that you're ready with it and not...
I would still not use AI for a pitch that I'm preparing, to submit to an author.
Certainly.
But authors do that. And sometimes they even mention that they have used the assistance of AI to prepare a pitch note, but that's just a query letter. And I mean, I think they are just trying to make the package more attractive.
No, I was listening to a conversation the other day, a podcast, where it was all tips on writing, and it was about, go to Goodreads or go to Amazon and look at the number of titles. I mean, use AI, of course, to figure out to your data, to figure out which topics are, you have about 1,000 books vis-a-vis topics that have 10,000 books. Go with the ones that have 1,000 books under that category, maybe horses or something like that. Don't go with the ones that have 10 or 12 or 15 because there is no market. So things like that, where you're kind of looking at very clinically to decide what you're going to write on. Is that something that you come across?
No, but you mean to say that like authors using AI to
choose what they should write about?
No.
You're just talking literary, that's why.
No. Even commercial writing is very, very...
Yeah, I'm going to save Kanishka from this question now. But no, I just wanted to mention that while I haven't used AI, for editing purposes, but I did meet an editor recently who was speaking of this really terrible, very important book it will turn out to be, but very lazily written, and so it was a messy manuscript that was submitted, and so it was put through AI to generate a better first draft, and then you get on with being the editor, so you have a part of that really tough work of creating a book out of something, done by AI,
and do it quickly. Yeah, because there's no time. Do it quickly.
And there have been conversations about, like startups, publishing startups that are going to publish just AI-generated books, but so far I haven't seen any results.
Yeah, but we get them on our desk, and my team can attest that it's not a happy sight.
My other hope, by the way, is that AI will do all our jobs for us and we'll all have a lot more time to read.
You wish. And what do we read? It's so important. Seriously. Now let's get to Kanishka's role, because as a literary agent, which is Manasi and Elizabeth will say it's, quite recent, but now you're seeing more people why it's important to have a literary agent for both sides. I mean, you're also quite relieved when you have, that it's gone through certain checks, and therefore you're not going to get a lot of, it's of a certain standard. But Kanishka, can you take us through the paces of what a literary agent does quickly? I mean, of course, you read their rights to them, they're aware of that. But
so we are like the first reader, editor, accountant, lawyer, counselor, everything rolled into one. When I started out as an agent, the market for agents was very small because unlike the West, Indian publishers tend to deal directly with authors, but I see a change over the last 10 or 12 years, and now even publishers who were dealing directly with authors, they're open to working with agents. I understand their hesitation and anxieties because an agent is free to, pitch the book to multiple publishers and make, the offer and the advances and, basically higher and the stakes, make the stakes go higher. But I think we are also now adding value, all the agents, most of the agents in India. So, we try to, pitch our authors to festivals. We try to, get media interviews done. We get involved in marketing plans. Authors are now very interested in the possibility of their works getting adapted into screens, OTT and films, and they are very interested in the possibility of getting translated into Indian vernacular languages, translated into foreign languages. So, an agent has to work very hard because it's very easy to sign up a promising writer or sign up a very major writer, but if they don't see any value add, and if the debut book ends up becoming big, there is no reason why they will stick with you and not go to a publisher directly. So I think now the market is I won't say controlled by agents, but we represent at least 60 to 70% of the authors.
Yeah. And you see quite a few, you hear about Jacaranda hiring more agents, so obviously it is
Oh yeah, that's a very good development because Jacaranda is also our first agency. It started in 1997. And now they have multiple agents and across multiple genres. And as an Indian agent, I can't afford to specialize in certain genres because of the size of the print, the size of the market and how small the advances are. So I'm open to all genres. I even sign up academic, authors even if I don't get them any signing advance, if I see potential for a mainstream book in them. So as an agent in India, you have to be open to all kinds of writing, all kinds of genres. Otherwise, it's very difficult to, sustain the business.
Then that next question is, do, agents actually make money in India? But how does it work? I know you get about 15 to 20% of that, of an author's earnings, which means if the average advance is $1 lakh, then, you get about 15 to 20,000 per book, which means you have to sell about 100 books to make about 15 lakhs or 20 lakhs, which, so can you explain that bit, the earnings to the audience so they understand?
No, so none of the agents in India are only agenting. like there are agents who run like successful like bookstores. There are agents who are doing other things. I also have other verticals. So, but that is not to say that, I mean, I'm using that to subsidize agenting. I think I have now a very large list of writers, and so some of the non-fiction books, they end up getting fairly big advances, and some of the books get sold into multiple languages, and and then you have these major successes like Heartland, Tomb of Sand. So I think it's hard, it's difficult, but one just has to keep at it, and which is why I need to work with a lot of writers, because otherwise it's
That's
impossible.
not enough just to have about 6 books a year. You need to have far more, right? I mean, for it to kind of make sense.
Yeah, but like most agents, practically all agents in India are not like agenting
That's
full-time.
not their day job.
No, I mean, they're not agenting full-time. I mean, I have a ghostwriting vertical. I'm getting into all sorts of things now, but agenting is my mainstay. So, I mean, which is why we have to sign up a lot of writers. We are open to genres, but as a business, it's very difficult to scale up. Because even like gone are the days when, like debut writers, no matter how promising they are from South Asia or anywhere in the world, will get really big advances. Even from UK, US presses, I mean, the average advance for a new writer in the UK, US is like $5,000 to $10,000, $15,000, and then it's staggered like most other, contracts. You get paid over a period of 1 year, 2 years.
In trances,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I need to have a big list, but I'm also like very serious about agenting. I have a big team, like 8 or 10 people, and most of them are paid like on a monthly basis. So it's like I'm very serious about it, So I think once you start growing or you reach a certain threshold, then like authors will come your way.
Yeah, in your case, yes, it's a given. Now, Manasi, you tell me how it works from the publishing side to work with an agent, a literary agent.
So we, most publishers in India do accept unsolicited manuscripts as well. So we deal both with agents and with authors directly. I think what he says is true. I've definitely seen an uptick in the number of agented submissions versus non-agented submissions. And in multiple cases, I mean, like off the top of my head, I can think of at least 10 examples of writers who write a first book and then take an agent for their second book, because they've done, even though they already have a publisher, they still want an agent in the picture. And frankly, I think it's incredibly healthy, because authors and especially authors and editors have such a special relationship. We want to, and particularly for literary publishing, this is very true. We want to talk about like we want to get nerd out about things that are to do with the book. We want to talk about the book, the structure, should that comma be there? I mean, dotting the I's and crossing the T's and all of those things. We don't necessarily want to sully that relationship by talking about the money part of it, right? So it's nice to have someone with whom we can have the tougher conversations, and it could be different types of tough conversations, ranging from maybe the author's unhappy with a marketing plan and they don't want to say it to me.
That's a big concern, right?
Yeah. So it's very nice to be able to have like a buffer in what ends up being a very truly a very, very special relationship.
I think that's where we talk about the marketing, the budgets are smaller at publishing houses, and therefore that's where the agent comes in, who's going to watch out for the author.
I think the evolution and growth of literary agenting, literary representation in India is evident from the fact that now many well-known writers, established writers, writers who do not need agents at all, are now being represented by agents, mainly Indian agents. Earlier, it was not the case. I used to rely only on my slush pile. Even now, we look at the slush pile. We look, and if we come across something very promising, we make sure that we read the manuscript and respond to the authors. But now, most of my authors are coming to me via referrals from existing authors, or even like journalists and like people from all walks of life.
The other thing I'll add is contractual stuff. I mean, we end up having like a standard format of a contract with every agent respectively. So publishing houses will negotiate a baseline contract or a boilerplate contract with different agents. And then the author doesn't have to step in and negotiate afresh on various
The
things.
author can
Somebody,
stick to being creative.
basically.
Yeah. Which also brings me to another thing about, why it's so important to be...
Sorry, the
sorry,
authors
I'm
don't
sorry to
usually
interrupt. Please.
know their rights, So when we do send across a contract, they probably wouldn't understand it. I think if they have an agent, they can understand what that means, because the contract actually tells you that you can do so much more with your book than just publish it as a print book, So, and they don't think to ask what these terms mean, So I think that's where an agent can come in and help them explore those possibilities.
So the agent may not necessarily work in the favor of the publishing house, because you may have more asks for your client.
It's a very tightrope walk for agents because on the one hand, you have your author whose rights you have to protect, that's your job. Protect and advance. And on the other hand, you have like someone like Manasi, or working with a major publishing house with whom you have a very close, relationship. So at any given point, either of the parties can feel that, you are being selfish, you are only interested in the author's interest, you don't understand how publishing works, and the author thinking that you are the publisher's agent. So it's a kind of a balancing act. It's a very complicated
But frankly, what
situation.
makes literary publishing this interesting, and at least for me, this special, is that most of the times, I think I'm on the writer's side. I act as if I'm on the author's side much more than the publishing house's side. And for me, it's just because I care that deeply about the book rather than like the top line or the bottom line or something like that. So we are not often in
Not
disagreement
because you
on
can
that
afford
stuff.
to be that. I'm sorry, I think you're an exception to the rule.
And oftentimes, publishers, they like commissioning editors, senior commissioning editor, they end up acting like my sub-agents who are trying to, convince their marketing, sales team and CEO that, we have to publish this book. It's okay if it's not going to sell. More than 5,000 copies of books in the same genre have not done well in the past. So it's like I'm teaming up with an editor in a publishing house, and we are just trying to convince, their powers that be to take on a book.
Okay, now I get this complaint often from authors where they say, it's really annoying because a lot of publishers, they're looking for influencers because half of their marketing is already done that way. There's no budget, obviously. And influencers come with a following and therefore, yes, I know Prajakta Kohli was one example, but there's so many others who kind of do fairly well that first number of books or whatever. How do you think this should play out?
So marketing is hard, particularly since a lot of the book sales are happening online, So the big question is how to create visibility, So if you are already an influencer, so publishers tend to be attracted by that because they feel that many more people will hear about the book. But I do feel that that dream run is possibly drying out as well. Of course, Prajakta Kohli, as you mentioned, that was enormous in terms of book sales. But I feel for a lot of influencers who are published, it's also about their followers not buying their books. I think they follow them and they get the information from their social media platforms, the kind of information they want. They are looked at as their social media is a form of entertainment for their followers. But if they put out a book on the subject, it may not necessarily translate into book sales, So we do as publishers have to rethink this, this following influences and get a book out of them.
But do you have like a plan usually at a publishing house where a percentage has to be this and the rest devoted? So, kind of use them to balance the literary authors to kind of, you tell me what happens behind the scenes.
So
a bit of everything.
I already warned you that I'm going to be the naysayer on this subject. I really don't give two hoots about social media. I have never bothered to find out if an author has a Twitter presence, and I can't keep track of the various types of social media that everyone is meant to be on. So that is certainly something that is not of interest to me. I also genuinely believe, and this is what all my years in publishing have taught me, there is only one kind of marketing that works for a great literary book, and that is word of mouth. All of us know this. We get our word of mouth from different sources. Sometimes we get it from social media, sometimes we get it from media, from reviews, and most often we actually pick up a book because someone said, oh, hey, I read this book, I love it, I think you'd really love it too. Word of mouth is the only thing that actually works for a great literary novel. How we get there is the question for me. It is never a question of this is the only way to get there, which incidentally brings me to the other problem that I think that this social media phenomenon has is visibility is not the same as judgment. Usually what happens in any type of a market is when there is overproduction, there are too many things taking up your attention. Attention becomes a substitute for judgment. So the thing that is most visible ends up becoming the thing that you think, oh, it's probably a great book. I think maybe what we in publishing should start to do is produce fewer books and make them all great so that the only basis on which we are making decisions about what to read is judgment. And I think everybody has different types of judgment. It's not going to be the same. I think it's going to end up actually being very interesting for the market if we diversify it.
I agree with, sorry to interrupt, I agree with Manasi about perhaps thinking about publishing fewer books, When it comes to publicity and creating that visibility, I think a publishing house needs to stay with a book, So, and that's often not possible because you are publishing so much, So you have fewer resources in hand, and so you will move on to the next book and the next, and then the books you published a few months ago get left behind, So, so it's important to for publishing houses to think about staying with a book for a prolonged period of time, and that's how readers will see that you are really passionate about this book, that you are invested in it. There must be something in there, So, and that's how the interest will grow.
I totally agree with Elizabeth about this. Publishing is a very long game. If we are counting sales by how much has it sold in 3 months, I mean, that defeats the purpose of publishing. Publishing is meant to have a much longer...
Books are forgotten after those 3 months.
Yeah.
Because the other books have come in.
But publishing is meant to have a long shelf life, and it is a very long game. You have to play it with an enormous amount of patience. My favorite example for this is in December 2019, I published a book called Chats with the Dead by Shehan Karunatilaka. And the book, I believed very, very, very firmly in it. I loved it to pieces. I would not shut up about it. I just would not stop talking about it. This was my word of mouth publicity platform. But what happened was that he did not get a UK publisher for a very long time until the middle of 2022. He finally found a publisher for it in the UK, and it was published under the title, the same book was published under a title, The 7 Moons of Mali Almeida. That book then got longlisted for the Booker, and then it got shortlisted for the Booker, and then it won the 2022 Booker. So almost 3 years after I published it, this book ended up becoming our best-selling title of that year. That, to me, that is a long game. If you don't play the long game, you're not going to get the benefits of the long game. If you want answers tomorrow, then those are the people that need to start worrying about AI, not people who are in it for the long game.
Well said. Kanishka, how many cases are there like this, what Manasi is talking about? Because you're dealing with so many publishers, where they're playing the long game. Most often they're not, it's tough for them because they have to bring out the next book and the next book and the next book. There's a luxury of...
Yeah, but even the publishers who have a smaller list, they don't have many successes. So I think marketing is a big problem. More than marketing is discoverability. And then you cannot, not factor in the competition from international authors, I mean, there are so many genres of writing that have been non-starters, when it comes to local publishing. And it's not because publishers haven't tried to discover writers in such genres, whether it's horror, fantasy, science fiction, young adult, middle grade, creative fiction for children. Because there is so much competition from the West, and then short attention spans. Marketing is a big problem. I think it's because of the nature of the world we are living in, and everybody's multitasking, and publishing is no exception. So editors are multitasking, CEOs are multitasking, marketing people are multitasking, which is why not too much thought is put into marketing a book, preparing a campaign for a book, because like everybody's rushed off their feet. They have to move on to the next book, they have to get on the next Zoom call, prepare the next marketing pitch, marketing plan. So it's a bit chaotic. But I don't think things can change just only if you start publishing fewer number of books. I think the whole ecosystem, for promoting books in India is kind of broken. We don't have any major awards left. I mean, except for Crossword, JCB Prize for Literature has shut down, DSC Prize has shut down, Shakti Bhatt Prize has shut down. The Hindu had a very good prize, for fiction, and for 1 year they even ran the non-fiction prize, that has shut down. And you can't rely on nominations, from
because of sponsorship.
From
it's so difficult to find sponsors for culture.
No, and also we don't have influencers who can actually, whose recommendation makes a difference, and will make the reader or the follower pick up a book, I mean, there are some online book clubs. As for your question about influencers, which was the question that you had asked both of them, it depends on the quality of the following. If an influencer is followed by people who don't read, it's very unlikely that they're going to pick up a book by that influencer. But 2 years ago, the stand-up comedian Kannan Gill published a novel, and he may not be having millions of followers, but he had a huge following, but a lot of them are readers, so which is why the book sold a lot. I've also closely observed the Insta poetry ecosystem in India. There are a lot of Indian, South Asian Insta poets who have a huge following on social media, but that doesn't translate into sales. That their books have been published by the likes of Penguin, Harper, and other publishers, but they stay at the 3,000, 4,000 level, at the most 5,000 copies. But if you look at the number of views on their videos and performing these poetry, it's still 1 million. So I think people are consuming their content, but it's not sadly, it's not in the book form. In the last few years, I have heard stories of editors just reaching out to a big influencer, just saying that, oh, I want to do a book with you. They send them the contract. Some of them don't even send them proposals. So obviously the book is going to suffer because not much thought is, applied to what kind of book should the influencer be writing. And there needs to be some time given to the development of the book. So I think it really depends on the kind of following one has.
But do you as an agent get into the role of, identifying what awards they should be looking out for, or all of that? We're taking care of your...
there are prizes...
prizes and awards.
There are prizes to which the submissions can be made by the agents, like NIF, and even the author can submit, for the NIF prize, even the Ramnath Goenka prize. In other cases, we can only appeal to the publisher, or we can check with the publisher or get some sort of a unofficial confirmation from them that the book will be entered for the prize, because these things cannot go into the contract. Yeah. And when there are a number of when there's a cap on the number of submissions a publisher can make for a prize, then we can just appeal to them. So yeah, I mean, but we always remind them. In fact, when before Heartlamp was nominated for the Booker Prize, I reached out to Another Stories and I asked them to check with the Booker Foundation about the eligibility of the book, because it does not have its stories from one collection. So the publisher reached out to the Booker Foundation and they said it's fine, and so the book was entered for the prize. So we do all of that. But we cannot change the structural issues with publishing. We are not magicians. We can just amplify the authors' voices and their concerns.
No, I just wanted to pick up on this word Kanishka said, which is the ecosystem. And I think that is primarily what is important, you know. So instead of looking at solo publishing houses, the publishing industry in India, though it's small, does not always work cohesively. They don't work together, you know. So, but what's interesting are is the broader ecosystem that, like JCB Prize, allowed publishing houses publishing in English to look at translations a lot more. They wanted to do more of it, you know. There are translation courses happening in universities now, you know, very prestigious ones, very good ones. There is Vivek Shanbag's just started Hyphen, you know, which I'm really excited to see what would happen, you know. When you talk to people from European languages, European countries, you hear so much about the state support that they get, you know, for publishing, for translation. And there's a clear lack of that there, you know. What is happening is, say, Sahitya Academy, I won't go deep into what's going on there, but
Correct.
They do publish books, but where do we see them? You know, there is no distribution of those books, you know. So then what sense does it make to have translations of those books if you can't, if it's available only if you go to Sahitya Academy headquarters in Delhi, you know. So I think if the broader ecosystem has to be strengthened for publishing to really perk up.
You mentioned
you know?
governments, so state governments.
All the
Kanishka, this is it.
So I keep like going to different forums and, you know, like saying the same thing, that like both the Booker wins happened because of English Pen. Had Daisy Rockwell not won the English Pen, Tilted Access would not have been in a position to pay her the standard translator's fee for translating Tomb of Sand. Had Deepa not won the Pen Presents, prize grant, I would not have discovered her, you know. Motoshi Mansi's colleague would not have discovered her, you know. The book may not have been published. So all this support, all the success is happening because of international bodies. And we do have like NBT and other governmental organizations who have quite a lot of money, and I think they need to support these translations. And if I or someone else, or even people from their organization, if they go to like publishers in the UK, US with some sort of incentive, some sort of grant, their books might get picked up and get published in the UK and the US, because this has to happen consistently. Every year only 2 or 3 books from South Asia, like South Asian languages, are published in the UK, US, maybe 4. And now the SALT program, which is instituted by the University of Chicago Press, that's also an international, like...
Are there any state governments at all where you see they're kind of...
Yeah. It's in fact, it's the Tamil Nadu Textbook Corporation.
great.
So they are doing great work. I just got back from, doing a session there. So they are investing a lot of money, and they are very focused on getting, works of translations from Tamil to English published, not just in, English in the UK, US, but across the globe.
Okay.
So I can see, Chennai, Tamil Nadu doing a lot in that regard.
I was saying, of course, they're doing such great work, and I've always thought that other states would pick up on what they're doing, but it hasn't happened, which has been quite surprising to me, you know.
Yeah. The next question about self-published books, because it usually gets bad rap. You know, when it comes earlier, when we have a policy, we don't, review books that are self-published. But then you're seeing more people choosing to self-publish. How does that play out for you, Manasi? How do you see this? Where do you see it going?
So again, I want to come back to the question of what is it that publishers do. Publishers are don't just exist to market a book or make a book visible. Publishers serve a much larger purpose. Publishers make a book possible in multiple different ways. So if an author sees value in the editorial input, in the editorial relationship, in the long-standing relationship between a publishing house and all the distributors that it works with and all the booksellers that it works with, etc., I think then they would be much happier publishing with a larger publishing house. But I could also reverse engineer the question and say, there are many writers who want to be published and don't necessarily get to work with the publisher of their choice, and then they choose to do self-publishing instead. And that, I think, is like a great democratizing thing. It gives everyone, you don't need a publisher to be published anymore. Publishers are not gatekeeping you from the world of literature.
Okay. What do you have to say, Kanishka?
I mean, the author needs to ask himself or herself what their end goal is, from publishing the book. If they are like, they want to be seen as serious writers of fiction and non-fiction, then I would not recommend self-publishing because it lacks credibility. Self-published books will not be taken seriously by, like reviewers. They will not be eligible for most, if not all the prizes.
Yes.
But in some cases, self-publishing is the most practical and the best option for authors, if they want to, if it's a very personal project, time-bound project, and if the author has the awareness that it has a very limited market, then they can control all the processes. They can, have complete control over the editorial, the cover design, and, they can, have a control over the timelines. But there have been instances where self-publishing has complemented traditional publishing.
Can you give us examples for the
audience? Yeah, like
audience?
Savi Sharma, and there are writers who've self-published their books and they've become so big that, they've got offers from, multiple publishers. And
Give some examples.
Huh?
E.L. James.
No, I'm talking about the Indian context.
No, but give examples of Indian authors as well.
Savi, Amish was not exactly self-publishing because it was sort of a hybrid publishing because he and his ex-agent, I think they teamed up and they were distributed by Prakash, so they had the access to all the big retail, online and offline, and then he became a big success. But I would not recommend self-publishing, but I don't know if many of you know that most publishing houses in India, they do have a special sales custom
Not everybody
publishing,
knows that, so you have to make that very
clear.
clear.
Many of them,
to the audience.
yes. But even in those cases, I don't think they are going to be open to publishing a book which is really problematic or which is very low on quality. So there will be some reviewing, editing processes. But yeah, paid for publishing is very rampant, and major publishing imprints are willing to, take on authors who are paying money. But there should be checks and balances. And even if you're going with self-publishing, make sure that you're being provided all the services. Because self-publishing outfits, they share a sort of a cost rate sheet with you, and it includes a lot of things. So authors should make sure that their books are treated properly, they're edited properly. But I would not recommend self-publishing to serious literary writers.
So you would also not agree that there's high gatekeeping when in the Indian publishing industry? No. High gatekeeping?
No, I don't think so. It's very democratized. Now if an author wants to approach an agent or a publisher, if you go online, you'll see all the resources. There are resources like Himalayan Writers Retreat. They would even mention, names of publishers, names of freelance editors. This was not the case when I started out. And when I started out 18 years ago, there were no festivals. There were no forums like the Lit Mart in Bangalore, where authors are a number of authors shortlisted by the festival directors. They get a chance to pitch their books to agents and publishers. Now even at festivals you can approach agents and publishers. So in a way it's more democratized now.
I'll say this, I think I have spent too long on the inside of it to know whether publishing has gatekeeping processes. I would certainly be hesitant to declare that there is no gatekeeping in publishing. Also, I am very aware that my opinion on this subject will be biased because I've been on the inside for way too long. I think this is definitely a question that people outside of publishing need to be asked. Do they see us as gatekeepers? And if so, what can we do to fix that problem?
Even now,
honest answer. Thank you.
Even now, all publishers in India are open to direct submissions, So there are not multiple layers of gatekeeping in India. You can reach out to a publisher directly or via some connection, via an author, via a friend who knows the publisher. And if your book is good, it will get picked up. But in the West, there are 2 layers of gatekeeping. It's next to impossible to find an agent in the UK, US. So.
Yes. I think we need to, okay.
I would, rather than the word gatekeeping, I would say curation, so, so as particular editors, individual editors work on commissioning certain kinds of books, so you will curate that list, you will discuss ideas with authors, etc. But in terms of self-publishing, I think a lot of authors who are confident about doing it without a traditional publishing house go also for it because they get a lot more money because you are offered a certain percentage as royalties by publishing houses and you do get a lot more if you're doing it by yourself, but it's a lot of hard work. Are you really going to look into the distribution of it yourself?
Unfortunately, so many points, so many things to discuss with, especially with like you were talking about books that don't have to be informative or educative or informative. You need to have self-censorship is another problem with the Indian publishing industry. Everyone's worried now when it comes to non-fiction, what they can write and can't write about. That's a big problem you were saying going forward. Manasi, I think, will agree. Last points to the audience when it comes to publishing from all of you. You've kind of been in the business for a long time. Do we have time for any questions at all? Okay, fine. Let's take questions? Okay, fine. Let's open it up. Who do we give it to?
I'll start here. Oh, you've already got a mic. Okay, you've already got a mic. Yeah, go on. Okay, he's already got a mic. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, hi. Yeah, hi, good afternoon. And I believe it was a wonderful session and I was really waiting for it. And thank you, Rosella, for putting all this question and brilliant people on the table I can see. But I completely agree that I see, publishing house as a gatekeeper. I would use that word. Sorry to differ from you. But I wanted to know that how many days it take and what is the criteria for a debut author when somebody want to get associated with any publishing house. Is there any criteria? Because what you see, I wrote to many publishing house last year. Nobody gave a try. Nobody gave an entry. Then I did self-publishing. So what is it the publishing house looking for? Realistic, let's be clear. So if there is a to-do list, I'll check it. I'm a corporate here and having 22 years in sales and marketing, I do understand you will have a lot of challenges with respect to marketing when it comes to, because it needs a lot of money to, market the book. Until unless there is not a huge following, you will not be able to launch it. So what is that to-do list? Do you have something to help us?
First and foremost is your book itself, it's your manuscript itself, So when you submit it to us, if we will discuss the book as a book, first and foremost, But of course, as we were discussing earlier, there are, of course, questions of when we are discussing whether to acquire a book, we are also discussing how to, our sales team pitches in, our marketing team pitches in, so the marketing team has questions on social media presence,
we get back to that.
What can you bring to the table? Because marketing has to be a collaborative effort as well, So those, I mean, if there is something you can bring to the table, I would say mention it very directly so that we know, So that's all I can think of, really.
No, so we have a policy wherein if we haven't, which is mentioned on our website, when if we haven't reverted to the author within 3 months, then they can treat that as a rejection. So because it's very difficult for us, nearly impossible for us to write rejection letters to everyone. So if you haven't heard back from us in 3 months, then maybe you can just send one reminder. And if you haven't heard back from us even after that, then you can look for other agents and wait for publishers to get back. If it's a work of fiction, then it's highly unlikely that an agent is going to offer you a representation agreement without seeing the full manuscript, because, I mean, we may like the chapters, but we may not like how the book, like the work is evolving or how it ends. But for non-fiction, we are always open to, like signing up on the basis of a proposal and sometimes a couple of chapters. And it's a fluid process, so we may feel that a proposal is enough. And when we take it out, when we send it to publisher, they may ask for chapters, and then we can ask the author to do a chapter, but we are willing to, sign up works of non-fiction on the basis of a proposal or an unfinished manuscript, 1 or 2 chapters done.
They've both answered the question very ably, but I'll just answer the question about, is there a checklist? If there was a checklist, the publishing industry would be so much more successful than it is right now. It is not one of the largest and most successful industries right now, simply because it is a guessing game. It's an enormous mystery. We try our best to make these decisions on the basis of what our gut tells us and what we think people want to read.
It's like movies, isn't it?
Yeah, but we don't know. I get it wrong or much more often than I get it right. It is a guessing game, but it's what keeps it interesting. If there was a checklist, it would be much more uninteresting, but much more successful.
But with all these successful authors behind you, Manasi, I think that's something you should do now between this and your next assignment.
You get better at the guessing game. That much I will say. It is a guessing game. It never stops being a guessing game. You just get a little bit better and better and better at the guessing game. But if it became something that you could just game or codify through a checklist, I promise you it would not be this interesting.
And it's a creative pursuit.
Yeah. Question here.
The context of my question is the word democratization, because we heard it again.
Could you speak a bit louder, please? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, the context of my question is around democratization that almost everybody has used here, right? And also trying to relate it to the title, which is Infinite Voices and Chaos. Just bear with me as I establish the context more. Since there is the social media, the internet, you have infinite plethora of ears, receivers, than infinite voices speaking out, in the sense that people who have never read a magazine or a newspaper are now reading messages and forwards from in the WhatsApp university. They're forming opinions. And then the word democratization comes, where we feel that, okay, now opinions should be far-flung. Everybody has a right to express themselves. Therefore, they can talk whatever they want. In the sense, coming to chaos. Now, with this, if you relate democratization, it becomes more like flattening out perspectives, bringing down the standards in terms of, establishing public opinions.
Sir, can you condense your question?
Yes, sorry about that. So, my question is more like, is the standard of writing as much as it should be? Or is it just that because of the democratization, quote unquote, that, quality writing is not really there? It is just that there is the masses, which is not really a good trained readers.
We're not getting
the question.
What the question is. In 2 words, what is your question?
Standard of writing.
What is the quality of writing as of today, vis-a-vis the quality of writing in the ages of...
And one of the reasons why the standard of writing is kind of like dropping is because, especially in the case of first-time writers, because they're in a tearing hurry to publish. And as I said previously, editors are multitasking a lot. So even many of the good ones cannot pay much attention to, or don't have the time to focus on, editing manuscripts. So yes, in that sense, a lot of half-baked books are getting published across genres, even literary genres. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Next question to your left there.
This question is Manasi. Here, this way.
To your left, there.
There's a proliferation of LitFest, though ours is the coolest one. And since you said you think word of mouth is the best, I wanted to ask you what you think is the role of Literary Fest in supporting publishing houses and the authors, and what is the pressure on writers to present themselves at these LitFests and market their books. And the other question, one small one yet, I also wanted to know about the long-term hand-holding you would like to have with your writers. For example, when you read Guha's Cooking of Books, you read about 40 years of relationship with Rukun Advani. And even in agriculture, I know that long-term hand-holding is beneficial to both parties. So I'd like your comments on both the points. Thank you.
So the first question was to do with whether literary festivals also play a role apart from word of mouth. I would say literary festivals too are a part of word of mouth. So I think the point I was trying to make earlier is, do we need social media? No, I don't think everyone needs social media. I think we have to curate what the word of mouth publicity is going to be, and you have to rely on multiple sources to make that decision. What does the author want and what is the genre of the book? Mostly these two things. But largely, I think the way to sort of market a book is you look at a particular book and say, okay, this author has a social media presence, so let's market this on social media. But you look at a different book and say, this author is not big on social media. I can live with that. But can I get this author to do interviews instead? Do I think this is a book that is going to get reviewed well? Do I think this is going to prize juries? Do I think this is a book that's going to go to literature festivals? I curate the marketing plan as well, and I do it because I think that this is a certain type of author who has written a certain type of book. But the larger point about word-of-mouth marketing is I think that is the only thing that works. I think making a lot of noise around the book is the sort of thing that creates velocity, but it is not the sort of thing that creates durability. And the only thing that I do think will create durability is to get there through word of mouth. Your second question, oh yeah, I am a hand holder, but I think that
we see that, I think.
But that's very much, again, depends on the kind of publisher or editor that you work with, or frankly, the kind of author that you are. There are lots of authors who don't want the hand holding, but I get involved. I can tell you that I am someone who has, gone linen shopping to find the right shade of linen for the jacket of a book because an author wanted a particular shade. And, I am that sort of an editor. But that's just my style, and I don't expect that to work for everyone or for everyone to follow that style.
What percentage of hand-holding is there, Kanishka? Quickly.
As an agent?
Yeah, what you're seeing. No. Yeah. What you're seeing with publishers. What percentage of hand-holding do you see in the industry, in the Indian industry?
I think it varies from publisher to publisher, editor to editor, how important the author is for the editor. And there have been instances where I've seen, some very strong, relationships between debut writers, who've not even been published internationally, and their editors who are seasoned editors in many cases. I think it really depends from an editor to editor. I have a comment on literary festivals. So I think if literary festivals are run by, serious readers, it really shows in their curation. It shows like Hindu Lit Fest and Jaipur.
That's for Mrs. Lakshman, who is
Unfortunately, there are many Lit Fests where, the festival directors, they are not readers, they don't understand literature. They see that as some sort of a status symbol, like being associated with the festival. And they see it also as a sort of a commercial activity. Those are the festivals where authors are going to be neglected, panels are going to be bad, books will not arrive on time, and clearly, authors are not going to benefit, if their books don't sell, if journalists are not there to cover the festival. So I think a literary festival will be beneficial to authors only if it is curated, very thoughtfully. But that's not happening with most of the festivals.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Maybe last couple of questions, really. Yeah, please.
Yeah. I thank you all for this good program. I am a first-time writer. I had written a book on agricultural fiction because many of us don't know about, we are not bothered about the food, how we get it.
Sorry, where are you standing, sir?
Oh, yeah, here, right here. So it took me a few years to write a book, but it took me a lot of time to get a publisher. My only request, because every author has his own way of doing things, and it takes a lot of time, an author knows it, and especially writing a fiction takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. I just request, through you, I request all the big publishers, to treat every author alike in a way that if they don't agree, let them communicate that they don't, there are a lot of publishers who don't even bother to communicate to authors that their book is not being taken up. So some disclaimer, I would like it, through you, I like to give to the big publishing houses this small request that treat authors well. Thank you.
Would you, Kanishka, would you want to take, somebody want to take? I mean, it's more an observation than anything else.
From Kanishka, the same thing, same response.
I think, you know, you should, I mean, if you have not heard back from any publisher or an agent, perhaps you should reflect on why, you know, your book is not getting any kind of response. And nowadays, authors have access to resources. You know, you can join, be part of workshops. You can reach out to freelance editors. Many of the editors, you know, they specialize in certain genres. And maybe, you know, like sign up for a critique or you know, some sort of a workshop with editors. So I think, I mean, you'll have to like reflect on why the book is being rejected. And if it's a work of, is it a work of non-fiction? Okay, so then I think it's best to like get advice from freelance editors, you know, unbiased advice from someone on why it's not getting picked up.
Yeah, publishing houses, I agree, do have this problem. We do get a lot of manuscripts practically every day, you know, and there's only that much that one person can read. Particularly it's fiction. When, you know, when it's fiction and we are seriously thinking about acquiring it, we don't read just one chapter. We like to read the entire manuscript before we decide whether we want to take up that work of fiction, you know. So that's a lot of commitment on our time as well, so which is why it takes
and we are
time
also
to get through.
Like writers, we are also working under a lot of anxiety, several constraints. So if I have signed up 10 works of fiction and I'm struggling to sell most of them, so I mean, I'm clearly going to focus on, you know, the authors I've signed up, you know, as opposed to like looking at new works of submissions. And if the publishers have not had much success selling new works of fiction, then they are going to focus their energies on other genres.
Right, one more question before we end. Yes, please.
Hello, yeah.
Yeah.
Hi. My name is Narayanan.
Yeah,
This, actually, Elizabeth answered part of my question just now, but I'll still put it forth. First to Kanishka. As a literary agent, you actually get a number of manuscripts, right? You also get a lot of submissions from almost about 300, 400 writers. How do you, if somebody sends you a literary work, a good literary work, how do you differentiate it from being good, bad, ugly? How long does it take for you to really recognize that it's good work and get back to the author? One, for Manasi and for Elizabeth, you also get a lot of submissions, and I've heard so many stories of some really good work going right under the pile, and you have 200, 300, 400 manuscripts about that. How do you cut through the clutter, and how do you decide on what work is good?
No, so when it comes to like good literary writing, it needs to have all the basic fundamentals in place: good writing, strong characterization, something new, a strong voice. Every agent has, an editor, they have their own preferences, you know, in terms of genre, in terms of the style of writing. I believe if a book is really good and stand out, it will get picked up one way or the other. You know, there have been instances, I mean, I'm going to talk about an author who's now very successful. She won the Tata Lit Life for Lit Life Best Fiction, you know, a few years ago. Her first book was a collection of short stories. It came to me. I did not even look at it. And then I think Aleph Book Company, they announced the publication of the book. I don't remember the name of the book, but the author is Tejaswini Apteram. And there have been many, many instances where very promising manuscripts have come my way. And because of whatever reason, I may have been busy, I may have been struggling with something, I have not been able to even look at it. But I think if a manuscript is very, very good, be it debut, be it a difficult genre, be it poetry, it will get noticed one way or the other. So I think that's my response to this.
Yeah, I think I want to talk about, I joined the publishing industry about 5 years ago, and one of the first fiction novels which I published was Lindsay Pereira's Gods and Ends, which got nominated, shortlisted for the JCB Prize, and what Lindsay had told me was he had previously submitted his manuscript to practically all publishing houses on his own, and he hadn't heard back from any. So had Dariba, one of the other authors who was shortlisted for the JCP that year, you know. And
so I also sat on Lindsay's manuscript for over a year. Then he sent me a mail saying that an extract from my unpublished novel has been published in the Himal magazine. Then I immediately started reading it. So I mean, that is what also happens in many cases.
Yeah. So I was a new editor who he submitted the manuscript to, and COVID had just happened, and as editors we were having a great time because we were not publishing, but we were reading a lot. And I loved the book. It's one of the closest books, you know, it's very close to my heart. It's fantastic. And it's sometimes about the right time, you know, so, and if you haven't heard back, I would say you know, perhaps someone has just not read it, and you should try through another route, you know.
You can enter
you will find an editor.
Work in progress for, you know, contests. Sometimes, at least internationally, the prize for a work of fiction is publication in a, you know, like by a mainstream publisher or university press. And now we have quite a few literary journals. So keep submitting like samples from your manuscript for if it's a full-length manuscript, or like start submitting stories, and maybe update the agents or the publishers whom you've submitted the book to with these bits of news and, you know,
that's useful information.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can give the story its third leg because I was one of the people that rejected it in the first round. So, but what I'm really happy about is that the novel found the right editor for it. I think you were the right editor for it. And I am so happy that it took its time, but it got to the right editor ultimately.
There was no first round, there was only one round.
That round. At that time I was at Penguin Press and she was at Ebury.
Okay.
Right, a lot of honesty, to be very honest. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Excellent. Elizabeth Kuruvilla, much appreciated for your company. Kanishka Gupta, thank you so much. Manasi Subramaniam. And of course, a big round of applause to Rosella Stephen as well. She's been around, she's been on stage for about 2 hours now. Well done. Thank you so much. So smooth as ever. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much, Kanishka, as well. Lovely.